certified financial planner as well here with Ron Thompson, Thompson Stewart PC, as well as a real estate attorney, etc. And I know there's a discussion when it comes to fully leveraged kind of, house versus that paid off house.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two sides to this discussion. Talk to me as a financial planner, just the dollars and cents.
The financial side, and then there's the emotional side.
The
too.
emotional, the personal security side, right? But talk to me why that's a discussion, even to have thinking about your mortgage situation.
Well, first thing I want to point out is any financial decision is very unique. There is no three people that are identical, and the same strategy works for all three people.
Right.
So with real estate, it's certainly that way. There's the problem with owning a home outright, and again, it tends to be something of an emotional decision for a lot of people because a lot of people were brought up with the idea that that's the goal. You pay on a house for 30 years, you get it paid off, you have a mortgage burning party, and now you say you own your home rent-free or debt-free, and that's great. And for some people, that's a great option. But I would tell you there is another side to that argument, so to speak, and I would say a couple of things. Number one, from a legal perspective, I would argue that having your house paid off is actually a problem and actually subjects the house potentially to a greater likelihood of losing it than keeping it.
Well, because you're talking about exposure at this point, right? Because if you have a paid-for asset, namely your home, and God forbid something happens, and we have a very, lot of lawsuits flying around in our culture. Now you've got something someone could come after, right? That's what you're talking about there?
That's precisely right. And the other side of it is, even if you get hit with a judgment on something else and then you want to try to discharge that debt in bankruptcy, well, now you have equity in the house. That house is going to have to be sold as part of the bankruptcy. So, and that's why I say paying off the house or not paying off the house, it's an individual choice. You really should sit down with a financial professional and a real estate professional like yourself and look at. But there are two sides to that story. And purely from a financial perspective, there is certainly an argument that it may make sense financially not to pay off your house because...
So there's two different arguments here. One
Sure.
of them is sort of a legal exposure issue, but another one that you're about to get into now here is sort of a financial wisdom, right?
Correct. And I would tell you this explanation makes a lot more sense on a whiteboard, but to articulate it, if you really look at interest rates, and Linus mentioned this earlier, if you look at interest rates, other than late 1970s, there's never been really a time where you can't invest money in a very safe, somewhat guaranteed investment that's going to far exceed what you'd be paying on a mortgage. And what most people don't think about is if you're paying 4.5% on a mortgage, you're really not because it's fully tax deductible. So you might be paying really 3.5%.
Okay.
If you have that money somewhere else, and that's the tricky part, you have to make sure you're actually putting that money
Right.
somewhere else, you can actually get a positive yield on that.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is math, right?
Correct.
If my 4.5% interest rate, and that's just a for instance, I'm not promising any rates to anybody here, but just a for instance, with the deductions that come with the legal tax things, I'm really only paying 3.5%. Could I be doing something with that money that would gain higher than 3.5%? And most definitely the answer is yes, I could be.
It would be definitely yes, and frankly, one of those options is more real estate, because you
Right.
all know a lot
Right.
of times really smart real estate investors will use leverage
Right.
to increase their portfolio, and that's a great way to do it.
That's exactly what Linus was talking about
Yeah.
when he called in. The idea of leveraging real property in order to gain more real property and then diversify and add to your portfolio.
And then you add the humans in, and there's this math makes sense, and this is a good idea. But then you also have to look at for yourself personally, what do I feel comfortable with? And that is part of the equation too.
Well, for sure. Let's talk about it this way. I'll tell you the truth, American Dreamer. I want a paid-for house.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say, that's my house. Come whatever may come in the future.
Well,
I've got an
minus
address.
taxes.
We got to cut the grass and pay the taxes. But that's important to me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to being able to leverage maybe an investment property for another investment
sure.
property, but now we got to make sure we're getting into the right kind of LLC situation, right? You don't want to get exposure to your personal property through investment property.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, listen, American Dreamer, you're listening to Michigan Real Talk. We're sitting with Ron Thompson, Thompson Stewart PC, an expert in real estate matters when it comes from a legal perspective, a certified financial planner, an estate planner, a tax strategist, someone who could really help you. And if you have some questions, you can contact us off air, 248-545-4700. That's 248-545-4700. And we'd be glad to put you in touch with Ron. Maybe he could be of some help to you. You're listening to Michigan Real Talk.